Hello, everyone, and welcome to LeeLa. I'm Lee Philbrook. The intention of the LeeLa community is to transform conversations and practices into actions that make a difference. And the word LeeLa comes from Sanskrit, and it means divine or creative play. It literally translates to your story. And we love to explore others' stories. It's going to be an awesome show this evening. We're going to kick it off with an introduction to us, your hosts, followed by an opening intention. And then we're super excited to have our special guest, Sue Nash. Sue is a holistic lifestyle coach and the owner of Body Innovations. And I love what's on Sue's business card. She's the chief of Feeling Better. Sue will talk to us this evening about the cumulative effects of stress on our body and how to use mindfulness and inner compassion to improve well-being. We'll then do our closing intentions and final announcements. And just a couple of housekeeping notes. We encourage cameras on, so please feel free to have your cameras on, unless of course you're eating dinner or working out, or don't take us around the house on a virtual Zoom tour. And we also encourage questions. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat box, which is down at the bottom. And there's also the reaction button. So you can put up your virtual hand and then we can unmute you if you want to ask a question. So without further ado, here we go. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Lisa English. Lisa?
Welcome to LeeLa, everyone. This is a place where you can explore, learn, and have fun. It's also a place where we hope to inspire you all to live a congruent and intentional life. I'm a high school teacher, entrepreneur, and content creator for small businesses. And I'm super excited about this conversation tonight because I love everything about holistic health and wellness. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it back over to my co-host, Lee Philbrook. Lee?
I'm passionate about creating meaningful connections, and I'm a heart-centered difference maker. I believe we have everything we need within us, and sometimes we get stuck. I'm a mindset coach, and I've developed a unique way of creating deep core changes using NLP, so that's neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and Reiki. I would now like to do our opening intention that really connects us and holds the space for the evening. So please close your eyes. May divine grace surround us, uphold us, and cherish us all. May it support us and our sacred trust and community. May we be strong together and our journeys be brighter and higher for having walked side by side. May we be guides for others and ourselves with clarity, tenderness, and light, feeling gentle in our minds and clear with our words, being strong in our creations, sending peace in all directions of time. With gratitude, we take this moment to arrive and join together. Open your eyes. Welcome to the room. And now over to Lisa to introduce our special guest. Lisa?
Sue Nash is a movement and mindset specialist. With a background in science and medicine, Sue has long recognized the importance of combining science, technology, and holistic healthcare into personal wellness. Sue is certified with the Czech Institute as a holistic lifestyle coach and integrated movement specialist, as well as being a Pilates instructor and fascial stretch therapist. Sue's aim is to help people navigate their way to well-being through healthy living practices and by using musculoskeletal alignment techniques to restore function, relieve pain, rebalance, and re-educate the mind and body. Sue believes that every day requires new conscious learning, choice, and self-discovery. Over time, she has developed a coaching system that blends scientific knowledge with holistic practices. She is driven to share what she learned with clients to empower them to reach their wellness goals. It's now my pleasure to welcome our special guest of the evening, Sue Nash. Welcome, Sue.
Hi, everyone. I'm super stoked to be here. I recognize a lot of faces, and I'm glad to even see some of my family here. So that's great.
Awesome. So we're going to get into it, Sue. Here we go. So why don't you tell us about your story and how overcoming your pain and obstacles led to the life that you wanted to intentionally create?
Okay. Well, I was 17 years old when really my life changed in a blink of an eye. And I always look back to that very moment in my life because it was so pivotal. And I recognize it from every moment going forward, what that was. So I was in a terrible car accident. And I remember on the morning of the car accident, I was going up skiing with my brother and my sister and some friends. And we were just leaving the house, and I was at the front door, and I kissed my mom goodbye at the front door. And when I kissed her, I got a shock on my lips, like, that static shock. But I also had a picture in my mind that I was going to be in a car accident. And I thought, no, don't think that, And that had happened other times in my life, but you know what? You push it out. And we went up to skiing, and we took two vehicles, got in the car, up we go. You're 17, you go do your thing. We had a great day skiing. Came back after the end of the day. We were coming home, and I asked my brother if I could come home in his car because he had a brand new LeBaron. I was tired, and I just thought, I'm going to take the nice ride home. The other car was a van, and it was just old, and it was like not comfy. So he said, sure. I really hadn't given that thought another even glance, but I fell asleep in the car. No sooner were we on the road, I was sound asleep. And this is in 1978. There was no laws about seatbelts or anything like that. So of course I didn't have it on. I was in the back seat, and a drunk driver hit us in a head-on car collision. And I was knocked unconscious at that moment. So I really didn't, I don't remember the crash. I don't remember any of it. I just remember waking up in the car with my head between my legs and being pulled out of this vehicle. And everything after that was very much a blur. I really didn't, I can't remember much of it. But I remember being, at the hospital, and they were very concerned about my eye, and I had a piece of the windshield hanging out of my eye here, and they were very concerned about that. That was their focus. And I was concerned about my brother. Is my brother okay? And during the night, they made us stay overnight. And I guess that was a good thing because I wanted to just go home and be in my own bed. But I remember I crawled out the bottom of the bed because I have those big things up on the bed. And I was in the washroom on the floor, somehow hot and cold all at the same time. And I was just heaving into this toilet. And I thought my brain was exploding. And I didn't know at 17 like, what was happening to me. But I was like just heaving and heaving. And a nurse found me there. And I said, can I have a Tylenol? And she looked at me and she said, no, actually, you're going to have to wait until the doctor comes in. So I'm in this remote hospital, a little tiny place, not even a doctor there. And so I had to wait till the morning. I don't know how I got through the night, just heaving. But it wasn't until the next morning that they found that I had fractured my skull in two places up here, right along here. I had two fractures there. And, they were like very, very concerned about it. Don't move, and all that. But it really didn't impact me until, when I was lying in that hospital bed, a police officer came to see me, and he looked down at me, and I felt so small. And he said to me, I don't know who's watching out for you up there, but someone is, because no one should have lived through that car accident, and every single one of you did. And he said, I don't know, I don't understand it, but you are a very lucky girl. And that was that moment that the bell went on. Ding, ding, ding. Like I could have been dead. I could have died right there. My exit on that highway was right there. And for some reason, I didn't die. and this is my opportunity to go forward. But as the days went on, okay, and not even understand, back in 1978, there wasn't a lot of stuff they did for concussions and things like that. They used to go home and rest. Oh my goodness. I had sunglasses on. my, Everything was so bright. My ears were ringing. They seemed to ring for the rest of my life after that. And I had memory loss, and I had brain confusion, even like immediate confusion in my brain. Like, I would put the milk in the cupboard and the glass in the fridge. I couldn't organize my thoughts. I couldn't feel grounded in my body. I felt like my head was over there and my body was over here. And I didn't feel attached to myself. So I felt very, very lost. And it just seemed to be getting worse and worse and worse as the days went on. And I remember my parents, took me to the doctor, and they said, well, what do you think? They said, she just needs to like relax and, rest her brain, and it will all come back with time. So, as part of my recovery, I was lucky, very fortunate. My parents had a home in Florida, and I went there to relax. And during that time, that was my self-discovery time of myself. So during my whole childhood, I had a hard time in school. I was dyslexic during a time when there was no labels of dyslexia. You were just that slow kid. So to be having those difficulties of processing information and learning all the way up until the car accident, and then losing my memory and my ability to just feel like I'm functioning properly, was just overwhelming to me. I just felt like I was on the bottom of the ocean, and I didn't know how to pull myself back up, and I didn't know what to do with myself and how to feel better. And it was a horrifying experience. I just can't tell you how disconnected I felt, and really not knowing where to go. So I actually started my just by walking, and I did some walking, and I noticed, oh, I feel a little better. Of course, I had huge sunglasses on and hats and things. I must have looked crazy, but you do what you have to do. And I found that walking eventually started to make me feel better. But it was actually when I went to the college in Florida, and I asked them if I could sit in and monitor one of their courses with a tape recorder. And they said, sure, they had no problem with that. So I took a tape recorder in, I'd listen to the lecture. I would come home and I would rewind every single sentence, every word, and I would write it out by longhand. It took hours. My whole entire day was just spent rewriting that one lecture. And then I put it on cue cards. And then I would just walk and memorize my cue cards. And eventually I asked them if it was okay if I could start taking the actual courses and the tests, and they said sure. And that is how I actually learned how to learn, how to learn. We all learn differently. We all process our information differently. So whether it's visual, auditory, or kinesthetically, and I think that for myself, it was very difficult for me with dyslexia to be in a classroom and have all the noise around me and the teacher writing on the board, and I can't see the lips moving, and it was too much stimulation for me. So to actually learn to take an auditory tape and write it out and then learn to memorize, I just did it by chance, but it worked. And that's what took me on the progression of actually getting a chemistry degree and a medical technology degree. So people would always say, and I even got a scholarship for being like super smart international student. And here I was at that point thinking, oh boy, are they ever fooled? Because like on the inside, I didn't feel smart. On the inside, I did not feel smart. I was like, oh my gosh, if you knew how much I had to study to get this, to be able to understand it. But for me to understand something, I had to understand it from so many multifactorial ways of looking at it. I couldn't just look at it through one doorway. I had to learn it inside out and backwards to really understand the concept and visualize it in the body or however I was manipulating it in my mind to really grasp the information. So that is how I started to learn and take my adventure of learning. And I learned everything I could about the mind and the body because I needed to get better. And who else to do it but yourself? So I just started with learning about the body. I didn't even know where I was going at that point, but I knew I needed to learn about the body, the mind, and start working on myself, getting my health back, because I thought I'm never going to make it. I'm not going to have a long life if I can't get healthy.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah, I really appreciate all that perspective about learning being a teacher. Like, that's just so great to know because everyone is different. All students are different. And Sue, maybe even going on to that, how did you find your purpose through teaching mindful movement and through all this learning?
Well, when I actually started to teach movement based, like Pilates and movement, I had noticed that by learning and doing movement based work, I was able to get my head back on my spine. Instead of feeling that my head was over here and my body was over there, I was able to connect them. And the more, when I did my learnings of, mindfulness and mind body work, the more you used all the different planes of motion and, connecting to your body through your mind, that really helped me with my proprioception of my own body, where it was in space. And it made me it was like lighting up my brain. I could now understand where my body was, where the boundaries were, and what space I took up. And I felt more connected to my actual body.
Wonderful. All right. Leah's going to take over now. She's going to get into the breath. So over to you, Lee.
That's a beautiful segue, Sue. You've got this concept you call the four sinks. So how do you use this concept of the four sinks to really recognize, monitor, and reduce stress?
Okay, so if you could bring up the picture of the four sinks, that would be great. This is a concept I learned at the Czech Institute, and that is that, stress is hidden in our body. So when people say, oh, you're so stressed out, they really and truly, we honestly think of it and we go, oh, I'm not that stressed. You think of stress the way you perceive your stress to be. But here is an examination of hidden stress in your body. So if you look at the four sinks, you can see that we have the muscular skeletal sink, and then we have a visceral, which is your gut, and a hormonal sink, and then we have an emotional mental sink. So if I've written down below each sink a list of a couple of things that might be in each sink, but I would actually have the person, when they come in, they could list, this would be given like as homework. So you could print this off and you would write under each sink all the various things that you could fill in that sink. So, you might have Crohn's disease, you might have, a liver problem, or, and you would just add those all up. And what's interesting about the sinks is that you can see below there that all the plumbing of each sink is interconnected to the funnel. And so, you could have a lot of emotional stress, which is often what people think about stress. So they just think of it on the emotional realm. But your body does not know the difference between emotional stress and your physical pain that you're having in the body. It's always the same chemical reaction in your body that's produced, whether it's in whatever sink is the issue. So when you look at all the sinks and you want to list all the things that you would put in the sink, then you might notice that, wow, my sinks are pretty full. And, instead of just thinking of your stress as being emotional stress, you could have all these other stresses that are building up, and eventually they're going to clog up your sinks and they're going to start to spill over, right? You're going to have too much. So the system can't handle it. So when we look at these hidden areas of stress for you, I often have people, you list them so you're becoming really aware of them, but then you can actually make a decision on what little things can you do to alleviate some of the stresses in each of those sinks. So maybe one from each or something. You don't have to attack just one sink. So often people think of stress, it's just all emotional, or I'm having a hard time at work or in relationships or whatever. But, if work on your pain that you're having on your body, that can affect your entire nervous system and take a lot of stress load off of all your other things. So you'll notice when you're under stress, or suppose you're under stress, how many of you would say, maybe your back hurts? Okay, so now, and then when your back hurts, oh, now this hurts, and now that hurts. Oh, and now my gut hurts. I can't eat, because it's all cumulative. So when one thing goes wrong, we often feel stress in other areas of our body, and we feel like we're going down the tube because we don't understand that it's all cumulative and it's piling up. So we need to reduce any of these things, and by reducing them you're going to start to feel better. So we can concentrate on one, but even doing one little thing in each of them is going to make a tremendous effect on taking down your stress. So when we look at your stress, you can see they all go into that funnel, and in a minute I'm going to show you how that funnel is going to come down onto like a teeter-totter effect for your nervous system. Does that make resonate with anybody? Make some sense?
I love this. Is really helpful, Sue, to have that diagram to kind of see that. And when you were talking about it, I wondered, um, is it, do you get people to prioritize like which sink they deal with? Like how would people know where to start? Like you talked
Yeah.
about doing a little thing, but do you find that it helps to kind of prioritize?
It does. So often when somebody comes to see me, maybe they're coming to see me because maybe they've got that knee pain or that back pain. And maybe they've tried other things about getting rid of it, but it's not working. So if that, you know, isn't what you've been doing isn't working, we can look at these other areas, right? And we can start to look at, well, are you sleeping? And there's so many great apps and things. There's so many, electronic devices now to tell you how you're sleeping, when you're sleeping, what quality of sleep you're having. But so you can work on one little component, and even and most important is always what I call that stinking thinking. So Paul Chek had always turned that from the Chek Institute. They say that 90% of our thoughts that we think are stinking thinking. And we're hardest on ourselves. We think we can't do it. We think we're not good enough. We think less of ourselves. And by stopping just all the negative that is out there, and instead trying to just flip that coin and say, well, every time you think something negative, you're just going to say, stop, clear that, and I'm going to choose a positive thought. Just choose something positive. Find a thread of positivity and work on that. If you dwell on the negative, you grow the negative. So we want to grow a positive mindset. So when I was on the bottom of the ocean and felt like I was drowning, and all these obstacles to moving on with my life and trying to not feel pain and feel better, I had to find that shred of positivity and something that didn't hurt in my body. And I remember walking one day and taking steps and thinking, well, you know what? My feet feel good. And with every step, my right foot felt good, my left foot felt good. And I'm just going to walk and feel my feet feel okay. And then it took almost my attention away from the pain that I was feeling in my neck and in my shoulder and in my head. I'm not concentrating. The more we fester it and we think about it, we dwell on it and we magnify it. But if I can take my attention away from it on what's working well, I just dampen it. I don't kind of feed into the loop, so to speak. So I generally ask a person, what do you think? What is reasonable? What do you think? Where do you think you'd like to start with that list?
I love that. And the stinking thinking is something that, knowing you, it's something that it reminds me. I'm like, oh, I'm stinking thinking. Okay, I've got to stop. So that's beautiful. The next question I have for you is, why is a breathing practice a doorway into better health? What are the key reasons why this is so important?
Yeah. Well, I really truly believe that breathing is, next to your thoughts, it's the most essential thing you do. We start life, we begin life with an inspiration and we end it with an expiration. Okay. And, in between, we live our life, and we don't always think about, are you breathing and how you breathe? Okay. You just take it for granted. And that's great because you're breathing and you're alive, and that's great. But how you breathe and how well you breathe can actually change your physiology. It can change your state of mind. And that will be reflected in your physiology all the way through your body. So I don't think people, a lot of people don't really take it to heart that how much they can change their own health by learning how to be a better breather. It's great that you're breathing and we're all breathing, But being a better breather can change your health to be a more positive mindset and a more positive physiology.
It makes so much sense. Can you now, I know you have a teeter-totter analogy.
Yes. Okay. So if you bring up that picture of the teeter totter, so imagine the first picture you saw and it had a funnel, right? It had the all the stress coming down and through the funnel. And after it comes down onto the funnel, it's going to land right on that triangle. Okay. So all your stress. And so your stress, you're always balancing your nervous system. Number one in your body is that, you know what, you've got this amazing nervous system. It's a wonderful nervous system, and it's there to protect you and keep you safe. But our nervous system is like you're on a teeter totter all the time, and we want it to be balanced. You want your, to be centered. And when you experience, okay, a little bit of stress, you're going into that red side of the teeter totter, and you're going, oh my God, I'm going into the sympathetic nervous system. And you start like, it's like you're running from a lion. Okay, that's what your body thinks. It's running from a lion. And when the blue starts to come down, this is the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the chill and the relaxed one. So we really want it to be in a balanced position, ready to go up or down and recover and come back to that balance point. But what can happen here with your breathing is that if you're always breathing, your breath, you want to use your whole lung. And if you're breathing not to the best of your ability, it's going to drive your nervous system up in that sympathetic nervous system. And so you're breathing only up here in your upper chest. So this is often the person, we see they're like this. They walk around with their shoulders up here. It actually looks like to me that they're carrying the world on their shoulders, like so much. I'm like, oh, like you need to like let that go. And I remember that because I remember after my car, I was like this, and then I was like that. I was like this. I couldn't get my shoulders to just kind of be even. It felt like I was constantly, it's like, where is it today? But when the shoulder is held up in that position, you're only breathing way up here in the upper 2/3 of your lung capacity. And when you do that, notice, even if I just say to you, when you get super stressed, do you take full relaxing deep breaths? No. You take these short fast breaths, and it's like you're running. So when you know you maybe you're just even running around the house cleaning or whatever, are you breathing? Because if you're not, you're driving into the sympathetic nervous system. Are you breathing short? So you're breathing fast. You're in the sympathetic nervous system. How you breathe, if in the nose or out the mouth, if you're not really taking those nice deep breaths, you're going to start to drive your physiology in that sympathetic nervous system up here. And people will tell you, like, oh, you need to breathe. And you're like, yeah, I know. I really find that hard. Well, you're just haven't maybe started in the right breathing exercises, and you might have to work with body work and lower your shoulders and work with your posturing to get the body back in a position where now you can reach and breathe into these beautiful lung capacities that you have here. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense for you with the teeter totter, because I use that analogy a lot with people and I learned that at the CHEK Institute, is that we always want to be balanced in our nervous system. And with that, when our nervous system is perceiving that we are running from a lion, it doesn't know the difference between any of those syncs. So your nervous system says, I'm running from a lion when you have emotional stress, whether it's your job or a relationship, whether your gut's on fire and it hurts, or you have tons of musculoskeletal pain, maybe a fibromyalgia and Crohn's, or all of those different things that can be going on. They have the same chemical reaction of stress in your body, and they're just building and building and building. So when somebody says to you, you need to chillax, man, and you're like, I don't even know how to chillax, I got pain, my gut hurts, what am I going to do, So what I like to do is teach people how to recognize where the stresses are in their body, and then what little things they can do to help tamper them down to get that balance back. And I'm not saying at all that I do everything, because I work with a lot of networking people, of physiotherapists, doctors, osteopaths, massage therapists. So depending on what that client needs, it will be referred out into those networks of people who can help that person along the path, so that I'm more the coach of the person that works with body alignment and flexibility and the breathing and those issues, and overseeing how things are coming along with the rest of that the other people are helping with, that they do best, right? Can't do everything.
That's amazing. Can you tell us more specifically, what an upregulated nervous system means and how it affects our body?
Yeah, I love that word, okay? Because upregulated just means stressed out, okay?
Okay.
So I remember, when I was experiencing all my stress and anxiety, and, I was like, oh my gosh, am I never going to get better? And I can't do this. And, I'm stressed out. Everything's stressing me out, and my gut hurt and my head hurt and everything was bad. And I went to the doctor, and they were like, oh man, like, actually it was an osteopath. And she said to me, Sue, you're just upregulated. And I was like, okay, what's that mean? She goes, that's a nice way of saying you're really stressed. I was like, well, thank you for saying that in such a nice way, rather than just saying you're stressed out. Because what happens when people tell you you're stressed out? You actually get more anxiety and stress about being stressed out. And what's the one thing everybody does when they come home and they say, the doctor says I'm really stressed out? What do? You book a vacation, right? And we all go on vacation thinking that this amazing vacation is going to fix everything. And it does temporarily. You have a great time. Hopefully you have a great time on your vacation. But all these other things that you can be doing to actually reduce that stress load in your body, that you could be doing daily simple little things that are going to help to make that difference and really grow that positive mind and have gratitude in your life for what is working, right? Because I believe that every day, I open my eyes every morning and I say to myself, surprise, and it makes me smile. I am here. How great is that?
I love that you do that.
It's like, who knew? Because you know what? It's a gift, man. I don't know if I'm going to wake up every day, but it's like, wow, this is amazing. And I say, I am grateful for the people that love me in my life. And I am grateful for the people I love in my life. Okay. And I'm grateful that I have this mind and this body that I can get out of this bed and I can live a life today. So that gratitude, I think, is so important. So if you don't practice that, it's really essential to growing that positive mind, and getting out of the negative loop of being in that stinking thinking all the time, because it's easy to go there, right? It's so easy to go down that road and be the victim or put obstacles in your way. I can't do it, or, so you don't try. And I see this all the time with people, a lot with pain. And I've been there, okay? Like when you have so much pain in your body, you're afraid to move. You are afraid to move your body because you're afraid of making it worse. And so where do you start when you're that afraid to move? Well, you need to start so that you're in your safety zone. What can you move that feels safe and doesn't hurt? And you start there. So no matter what it is, you start with the simplicity of what can move and moves okay. And you do that. And you slowly, as you move things. So even when I teach a healing bodies class, on Zoom, and I was doing it in the studio before COVID time, but that is for people who can't even, like, you can't do a beginner class. You're not there yet. Okay. So you come into the healing class and who knows what, you've got going on in your life and in your own personal nervous system, right? Because that's what we're working with here is your nervous system. And we want to have a positive effect after that class. So we're really working at a post physio level. So these are for people who, maybe they're in physio and they want to have a little additional thing that they can do. So in that class, we give lots of modifications for everything. Some people can't even like kneel on the floor. So if you can't, you're going to be in a chair. And maybe you can move your arm in a bent position like this. And maybe you can do this. Maybe someone else can move their arm up. But we just start with those basic, ranges of motions and things that you can do in the way of movement that are going to make you feel better. So we're looking to, when I look at flexibility, I really am looking at not Cirque du Soleil flexibility. Okay. I don't care about that. I look for normal range. So you need to know what is the normal range of all your joints. And that's where you're going to go to. So if you can't get to normal range, that means that you're missing a pocket of range of motion that isn't accessible to you. And if it's not accessible to you, that you could have tightness or stiffness, and eventually arthritis creeps in because you're not using the whole joint anymore. So there's a delicate little dance that we have to do for people with arthritis. It's like you can only create as much motion, a little bit, that doesn't create inflammation. So you have to start super small and you just do a little bit of motion and then you wait for that 24, 48 hours. So no inflammation, good. We do it again. And then we slowly increase, but we never let that do too much so that we get an inflammation state, because then you got to go back a few steps, right? So that's how we increase the range of motion over time. So, might take you 12 weeks or more just to kind of get your hips or your knees working again without being in pain. So the goal is to get the range of motion back, or some of it back, whatever you can get back, be grateful for it, and not have pain with that range of motion. Okay. Because to me, maybe I'm wrong with this, but I think, everybody should be training to be 100. We all want to be training to be functionally healthy, active, vibrant, and be 100 years old and feel great. I don't want to be, who wants to be like 100 and be all crippled up? No one, right?
Yeah.
So think about whatever you are doing in your life in terms of movement-based work. You should be thinking about what is it doing to give you the future that in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years, okay? Because you might be doing something like boot camp or something crazy right now and you might love it, but maybe it's not the best choice, because if it's killing you now, it's going to have a big effect down the road. It's going to accumulate and cause you some issues. So you need to be smart about how you're moving and move smart and gain strength in a smart way.
Yeah, I think functional fitness is so, so key and important. I mean, my grandfather lived to 100
That's
and,
great.
he was, lived on his own. He was amazing. So it makes a difference. So,
Yeah.
because he was basically healthy.
Yeah.
And yeah, something to strive for. So given you're talking about functional fitness, I'd like to cycle back and talk about how we notice what kind of breather we are.
I always start with breath when people come in. So just, how do you notice how you breathe? Well, you have to notice how you breathe. That's my first thing. So you first, just as you're sitting there and I'm talking to you, notice and catch yourself even periodically, maybe all day tomorrow, thinking about, how am I breathing? Are you breathing in through your nose and out through your nose? Do you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth? Are you a total mouth breather? Okay. There's so many different ways you could be breathing between your nose and your mouth. Now, ideally, we want to be a nose breather, in and out. Okay. That oxygenates and lights up your brain. When you are a mouth breather, the carbon dioxide is being spilled out, and you're not going to get the same amount of exchange of that air coming in and out through your nose. So that can change your physiology as well. And it can lead to sleep apnea and all these other problems. So there's a great book out there right now. I don't know if anybody's read this book. Oh, here's his name, James Nestor. So this information, it's funny. It's kind of a book that accumulates in everything I've ever learned from the Czech Institute about breathing and other courses as well. But I love that book. I think he did a great book on all the different aspects of breathing. So when you want to notice how you breathe, first just notice, how are you breathing? And can you breathe in and out through your nose? So if you are a mouth breather, can you zip it and practice breathing in through your nose and out through your nose? And it will be hard. It will be difficult at first. But the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And you're actually stimulating the lining up through your nose and down your throat. You're actually creating strength in those muscles that line, through your nose and down through the back of your throat. You don't want them to be flabby and breathing through your mouth.
It's so fascinating because in talking to you about this, I realized I'm what you called a reverse breather.
Yes.
Right. So I actually don't breathe into my belly. I reverse breathe, and I thought, how can I breathe wrong? Like
Yeah.
I was blown
Well,
away.
yeah. Don't worry so much that you breathe wrong. I always tell people, don't get hung up. Remember, that's kind of going into my stinking thinking a little bit. The fact that you breathe is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how beautiful is that? We're breathing. But, when it comes to being a reverse breather is somebody that when we cue exercise and we're always saying, okay, exhale and draw your belly button toward your spine to activate your abdominal muscles. They're like, well, when you say that, I want to do an inhale and I want to pull my belly button in. So that's what we call a reverse breather. So reverse breathers are often chest breathers. So they breathe up here in their chest and they're not breathing through the full lung, that whole entire lung, which takes up your rib cage, and getting that diaphragm moving. So they're not able to get into that diaphragmatic breath. But there are techniques that we can use to get you used to doing that.
That's wonderful. I've noticed, I've been noticing and practicing, and it feels vulnerable because I tend to stop here and not breathe
Yeah.
down into my belly.
And
And notice when I'm exercising, when I'm doing it, I have to be very conscious. And then
Yeah.
I notice if I'm exercising hard, I'm breathing through my mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when we teach, reverse breathers, to really engage through their belly breathing, so their diaphragmatic breathing. So if I'm going to teach you diaphragmatic breathing, I'm going to, just as an example, let's just put your hand on your chest and put the other hand on your belly button area. Okay. And then just, take that nice deep breath and notice when you breathe in, which hand is moving more? Is it the chest or is it the belly? So often reverse breathers feel this hand up here moving, but they don't feel their belly moving in and out. Okay. So when you take the deep breath into your belly, I want you to imagine that you're going to, really take your nice deep breath in and feel your belly hand move away from your hands being pushed out. And then so you breathe in and then you exhale. So you breathe in, feel your belly expand. Okay. So your diaphragm pushes down and it pushes your belly out. Have you ever looked at a little 3-year-old breathing? I love the little Buddha belly. And when they breathe, their little bellies go in and out. It's just so beautiful. It's so absolutely perfect mechanically. And then somehow along the way, we get, dissociated with it. And we start actually, for a lot of people who are conscious, they hold their belly button in, or they'll pull their belly in to pull their pants on, right? So they'll suck it in, baby. So then when they suck that in and hold the belly in, it doesn't let that diaphragmatic breathing happen, And I mean, Spanx are okay for an occasion, okay? I'm not going to say don't wear your Spanx, okay? It's okay for the occasion, but get rid of them. They're not a daily thing to be wearing, okay? You need to be able to let your belly come in and out, and, I remember when my kids were little, it was my son who said, Daddy, I thought your belly belonged on the inside of your pants. It's a great joke. But, somehow, For guys, it wasn't as big a thing, but for women, boy, we just suck it all in. You zip it up and you just, hold it all in. Little do you know, you're creating that, disconnection with your breath and your core mechanics, and it can distort. If your core isn't working right, you know what? You're going to have back problems and back pain, and you're not moving from your center of your core because your breathing mechanics are off. So it's a bad scenario. So you always want to come back to breath and learn to breathe properly.
Yeah,
Just for the sake of having an active core and being able to be functional with your core and not have back pain. You need to have a strong core and back. And that will take you through your life in so many great aspects of being healthy.
yeah, it's been very enlightening for me, learning that. And how does hunching over actually affect your breathing and physiology?
So often, if I was to just even say to you, drop your shoulders down. So drop down, because a lot of people have that posture. When you drop down like that, take a deep breath. You can't, right? You feel restricted. Now open up and, lengthen through your spine and take a deep breath. Now when you breathe, you have the room to fill your lung. So, posture is huge. So, I see a lot of even runners will come to see me, and they might have a poor upper back posturing, and they'll say, my cardio is terrible. And they're runners, right? But they want to increase their time and they want to get better at it. So by opening up through that chest and strengthening the back muscles, all of a sudden they're going to have huge capacity now in their lungs that they can use. So if you add that to proper breathing, they're going to improve any performance, whether it's daily living or in a sport. And so when we look at breath, we often notice that a good breath length of breathing in and out is 5.5 seconds. Okay, that's a long time. The average person breathes 3.3 seconds in and out. Okay, that's a short breath. That's going to be more in the chest. So 5.5 seconds is a long time. So I find that difficult to teach people, because you can start to get anxious just trying to learn to breathe. And we don't want that. So we do something called the 4-count breath. And I know I've talked to you, Lee, about 4-count breath. So 4-count breath is when you count to 4 in as you inhale, pause, exhale, counting to 4. So if I just take a minute with you here and I say, okay, so I want you to breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice, how did that even feel for you to focus on your breath? Anytime we focus on your breath, it's bringing an awareness to your breathing. And anytime you can bring conscious awareness to your breath, you're bringing an awareness to your awareness, right? So you're aware of how you're breathing. And that is a mindfulness technique. So when you bring your attention to your breath, you're doing an awareness technique that's going to help calm your nervous system. So you can use that technique anywhere. When you do the 4-point breath, you can even, I wouldn't do it until you're really good at getting this inhale, pause, exhale, but then you add a 4-point pause in the pause. So you would go inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a much harder technique, right? So you can learn and graduate as you work with your breath to be able to. But when you focus on the breath, you bring that mindfulness to it, and it's going to calm your nervous system right down. So anytime you either use diaphragmatic breathing or awareness breathing, it's going to calm that nervous system down and get that teeter-totter back into this state. So if you're having a moment, as I say, having a moment, and we become very disconnected to everything around us. So you need to center back on your breath, and it's going to bring you right back into your body. And you're going to have that awareness, and it will calm your nervous system down. And now you can make, when you have an awareness with your breath, you're going to have a whole brain thinking. Okay. When you're under stress, and I'm talking a lot of stress, you go into like a shutdown. Okay. You're not thinking with your whole brain, So I don't know if it's like when you're under, say, it's like a huge stress, it's like you're going to shut down into one side of your brain working, whether it's left or right or creative. I remember when I was in the fender bender and I was, pulled out my phone to call, my husband Vince. I was like, I looked at it. I was like, I can't see any of the details on my phone. I could only see this big picture. So I wasn't able to get my vision to focus. So even at that moment, if you can come back into your breathing and just calm yourself down, now you can think with a whole brain and you'll make better decisions.
Mm,
Which is what it's all about, right? So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Even doing it right now, I just, felt my system, you feel more relaxed.
Yes.
It's logical. And yet when we get stressed, we forget, we hold our
Yeah.
breath more.
Yeah.
We do have a question in the chat box here from George. And he asks, is it possible to breathe into the pain of part of the body? And George, feel free to unmute if you had a further question around that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is another technique that we use.
Okay.
And, when I run mindfulness breathing techniques, so using, say, mindful breathing to reduce anxiety and pain, and that's from the Integrative Pain Institute in the US that we do that. There are techniques that we do use where we breathe into the pain. And for some people, it will work absolutely like a charm. It's never my first choice when I go into breathing. I like to start with just getting the awareness to your breath and noticing if it dampens the effect of the pain you're feeling. But you can breathe into the pain. So a technique I often use, and I'll use this as an example because my daughter, when she was very little, was terrified of needles. And so, they'd go to put the needle in and she would just be like, so like just in a state, like I thought she was going to pass out. I was like, oh my gosh. So what I taught her is that I took her arm and on her opposite arm, I scratched her. And I said, okay, I'm going to scratch you over here. And her brain went to here and feeling my scratch. And they put the needle in, gave it to her. And she was like, okay, I'm ready now. I'm like, well, it's already done. So she didn't have to have the huge anxiety fit and pass out on me because her attention of her brain went to the other part of the body that I went to. So certainly, yeah, that's one little technique that has worked great for people. Worked great for my daughter. Now she can, do it herself. When she goes to get blood drawn, she just kind of scratches her leg or does something like that, and it focuses on the other area. But breathing into pain, yes, you can definitely use that as a technique, and it does help for sure.
Thank you. That's so helpful. And if anyone else has questions around breathing, throw them in the chat box. I'm going to pass it over to Lisa right now, and she's going to ask you some other questions.
Okay, it's been so informative so far, Sue, of course. So let's talk about Chinese medicine. Why did you study Chinese medicine?
Well, I was introduced to Chinese medicine at the Czech Institute with Paul Czech, and he had two programs. So one was all about the medical and scientific aspects of training your body and your health from that perspective. The other section was all about holistic care. And that was a 3-year program that I went through. And it introduced me to just so much like information, but it enabled me to actually hone in on what I loved. So, I was able to pick and choose. And when I looked at Chinese medicine, I looked at Brain Gym as well. So Brain Gym is, using the brain and the body through movement to connect. And Chinese medicine, I went down the rabbit hole of touch for health and using the meridians in your body and the acupressure points, because you can use them with, acupressure. You don't have to do acupuncture. What can you do as holistic techniques to support your health on a daily basis that you don't have to go running to somebody else to help you out with? Okay, that was important to me with, all the different problems and things I had with, some days you wake up with brain, my brain would hurt. I was like, oh, it's back, it's here again. So what kind of meridian and holistic techniques could I do to balance the energies in my body, which amazingly made me feel great? So I was able to use them with myself and speak to them personally, but I was also able to interact with other, both a medical profession, but also a holistic profession of people, and be able to communicate with them both. Because I believe, in a world of when we are not feeling our best, you should be able to use the best of everything. You want it all, right? Mm-hmm. You have to use the best of medicine and the best of holistic care. Anything you can do to overlap and complement to make your health better is great. And anything you can do to help you be positive and feel better and have better energy in your body is a positive thing. You're living, you're living it. You're living that positivity, which is, you're making choice and you're showing up in your life, which is important.
Of course, we all want to feel great. So let's share some secrets. Can you tell us why the central meridian zip up technique is important, and can you show us how to do that?
Okay, certainly. So, you have 14 Chinese meridians that run in a clock. So 12 of them are running in a clock in a 24-hour period. And 2 of them are storage meridians, okay? And the storage meridians, which is the central meridian, is where our energy is collected and stored and then released out of our body. So when we look at, so even the unused energy from all the other meridians are flowing through your body in that 24-hour period. They are collected through that central meridian. And sometimes any meridian the energies can get distorted in them. Okay, you could have over energy and you could have under energy. And it doesn't even matter really if it's over or under. It's what can you do to balance the energy is really what we're looking at. So with the central meridian is called the central vessel. Okay. And what it does is it runs right up the center of your entire body. So it actually starts right down at your perineum. So, right down, say at your pubic bone. So what you would do is you would bring your hand right down towards your pubic bone, and you would trace it up, and it ends right there. Okay. That is the end point of that central vessel. So what we do is we actually take both your hands right down in front of your pubic bone, draw them up. Whether you're tracing it on your body or just 3 inches off is fine, but you're going to zip it up to here and then go out, because I don't want you to unzip. So you're going to bring it out, and you're going to do that about 3 times. And we're because this is the flow of that energy. It flows up into that direction. Okay. So you could, on any given day, if I want to flush my meridian, any meridian, I could go like this. I'm flushing it. I go up and down, up and down, up and down. And then I'm going to zip it up 3 times just to get it flowing in the right direction. Such a simple thing to do. Central vessel is related. I like that one because it relates to, every meridian relates to muscles and organs. This one is the brain. So why not tune in on your brain, right? Let's wake that brain up. So I often do the zip ups, like I do them every day. Or if I start to feel low, I'll zip up my energy.
So simple.
We use that even in training athletes on the sideline. Like, you're going in that game, man. I want you zipping up. I want you to be on. You got to feel like you got to see it. You got to see the win. You have to be there. You got to see your finish line. Find that picture. Zip up your energy and then step into it. Because if you have that inch of doubt in you, it's not going to happen for you. You've got to be 100% on. Yeah.
And can you tell us, Sue, about the emotion stress release points and
Yeah.
how can we use those to feel better as well?
Yes. Yeah. So you have these, when we're under stress, what do people always do? They go like this. Oh my gosh. Right? How many times do you do this? You see people here. You have these 2 points on your head. So if you just kind of feel on your forehead, you'll feel a dent right in the middle. Right in the middle. Everybody has a little dent there. So on each side, so you have them on each side here, you take your thumb and your 2 fingers and you put them on that point. So you put them right on the point. So you could put your whole hand here. This is fine. Maybe you like that better. Or if you're using fingers, your thumb is what we call in polarity neutral. And then we have like positive, negative, positive, negative. So you always want to use positive and negative to neutralize them. So you could do this or you do this. Okay. And that is, your emotional stress release points. And those are the points that people go to all the time when they're stressed out. It's a natural thing. It's so amazing to me that we go right to our life. Oh my gosh, you go right to the point you need to use. And we use those points. You can use them for all kinds of holistic care in your support of your meridians to balance energies with them.
Another simple thing, you just in the middle of the day,
Yep.
put your hands there. Do you stay there for a certain amount of time or?
Yeah. So when you're on here, you can hold them, like you don't want to push like that. You want to hold them lightly, like as light as you're putting your fingertips on your eyeball. Like it's very light. You don't have to push hard or anything like that. But yeah, you can use these points when suppose you're feeling anxious about something coming up. Okay. You can go right to these points and you can future pace your stress. So you're just going to think about walking through, maybe you have an interview. You're going to walk through your interview. You're going to imagine it. You're going to see it. You're going to envision it. And you're using those stress release points. And so when I work with a person in person, I can actually muscle test it. And so I'll know if it's in, right? So we actually do little muscle testing to see if it's a yes or a no. So those are other little techniques we can show you some other time. But
Sure.
you can use those points. You can think about, you can do it for past stress and you can do it for future pacing stress. Absolutely.
Love that. I love that. I'm going to incorporate that in my day for sure.
Yeah.
So, Sue, tell us about the kidney meridian now and
Mhm.
how it relates to fear and anxiety.
Okay.
And then can you show us as well a tip to balance that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So the kidney meridian is, part of the water element. So in the Chinese elemental system, there's 5 elements. So you have your water or your fire, and then you have earth, and you have metal, and then you have water, and then you have wood. So in that water element, you have kidney and bladder, and when you're dealing with the kidney meridian, every meridian has an emotion, and the emotion to the kidney meridian is fear and anxiety. So that's why it comes up quite often for people, because a lot of people have anxiety, especially with COVID going on. Like, who doesn't have anxiety going on, right? So that kidney meridian has fear and anxiety. Maybe you can balance that energy very easily yourself. So the emotion for the kidney meridian is fear and anxiety. The meridian itself, okay, it runs up both sides of your body. So the 12 meridians are bilateral. They run up on each side of your body, other than the central and the governing, which is up through the center of your body. So the kidney meridian actually starts, I'm going to bring my foot up, and it starts right there, okay, right there. And it comes up my leg, around my ankle. It comes all the way up the inside of my leg, all the way up my body, and it lands right there. That's the end point. Okay. So these 2 points on your body are called your K27s. Okay. And you can put your thumb and your 2 fingers there, and you can rub them. And are they sore for you? Do they feel? Some people, they'll feel sore.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling, and put your other hand on the belly button, right on your belly button. That just will ground your core. And you just breathe. Take a few deep breaths and rub those points. And it's going to balance the energy. And then you switch. You do the other hand. because it runs up both sides, right? Hand on the belly button, other hand, thumb and 2 points. So they're right below your collarbone. You can't really go wrong. You just find your ribs there and you just rub through there. And notice for some of you, as you're doing it, you might even have that tendency to feel like you want to take a deep breath, or, like that's the balancing action. That's the parasympathetic nervous system kicking in for you, saying, oh, I'm calming it down. I'm calming it down. So super easy technique. So you don't even have to trace it. You don't have to do that. You just come to these 2 points and put your other hand on your belly button and you do it this way. Okay. Super simple.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing those. And my last question for you, Sue, is what are the 7 steps we can use to create self-compassion for living deliberately and consciously?
Yeah. So if you bring up, I think I gave you a PDF for that.
Yeah.
This is something I use with people, again, that I learned in my training. And it's a great way to really just assess yourself. Okay. And, when you look at, this list, you really want to rate yourself from 1 to 10. Okay. So 10 being stinking thinking, I'm terrible. And we're going to go through each of these bullet points. So when you think about your thought quality, think about, are your thoughts, are the majority of them like, what percentage of you from 1 to 10 is stinking thinking? Okay. Are you a super positive person? And where would you put yourself on that scale? And you could even, like, when I have people, when I'm working with them, I would have them write it even beside, say, thoughts, what number you give yourself there. And then with breathing mindfully, how many times a day can you go into mindful breathing? And are you conscious of your breathing? Are you working on being a nose breather? So you're going to rate yourself. That's something you can improve, which will dampen the effects of your sinks, right? And then the drinking quality, that's not wine. That is water, or let's say no sugary beverages or Gatorade colors. I'm talking good quality, just water. And it's okay to have your coffee every day or whatever, but you just need to be having, you're hydrating. And when you're hydrating your brain and your body. And then the eating quality, I always generally give people like the 80-20 rule. Okay. 80% good, 20%, chocolate cake, the coffee. It should not be reversed. Okay. Dinner is not nachos with cheese and bacon on it. Okay. Like, that's a snack. And then moving. How much moving are you doing in your day? So are you sitting at a computer just all day? Have you been outside today? Are you moving those joints? Do you move them around, right? What is the quality of your movement? So I'm not even talking about, like, people say, are you exercising? Like, don't worry about that. Are you moving your body? Do you move forward? Do you move backwards? Do you move sideways? Do you turn? Can you create movement in your body? And then resting. And when I say rest, it means rest, right? Take that downtime. It's so important. And this was just so drilled into me at the CHEK Institute, that rest means rest. It does not mean stretching class. It does not mean doing yoga. It means nothing. How hard is it for people to do, like, rest? Okay. It's downtime for you. And then renewing is your creative self. What do you do every day that's for you, that's creative, it's your jam, it's what feeds your soul? So, like, do you like to draw? What do you love to do? You need to be doing half an hour at least of something that makes you feel amazing, that you just feel like it's creating who you are. And it's an expression, it's an outlet of your creativity. And all of these things will help your sinks and dampen them down. So it's another way to look at your sinks.
This is beautiful. I love this. Again, another simple thing that we can incorporate. And
it's easier than you think.
yeah, exactly. Especially those other ones too, just So simple. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sue. It's been a wonderful evening, and we'll send those out in a highlights email as well. So everyone will have access to those after, and in case you didn't get to write something down. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to send it over to Lee now for our closing intentions. So over to you, Lee.
Oh,
just realized I was not unmuted. Sue, thank you so much for such a phenomenal evening and so much valuable information. So now I'm going to do our closing intention. So if you can please close your eyes. As we close our time together, with gratitude to all, we pause to offer each other love and kindness. May our understanding of love be expanded by what we have shared as we open ourselves to growth. May we rest in trust and surrender ourselves and our paths to divine grace, asking that this time together be protected, corrected, and held high. May we now see through love's eyes and understand beyond words. May we all be safe, happy, and healthy. May we all rest in full joy and know that there is no distance between friends in time or space. Divine strength and peace surround us until we meet again. Open your eyes, and now over to Lisa for final announcements. Lisa?
Thanks again, Sue, for tonight. I'm just going to wrap up what we learned. So we learned how to unclog our physiological sinks to feel better, how to use mindful meditation, breathing techniques to ground yourself and be centered moment to moment. This will calm the nervous system, thereby changing your physiology. And lastly, how Chinese medicine's simple techniques can balance energy in the kidney meridian and the other meridians as well, and the kidney meridian is associated with the fear and anxiety. So thank you again, Sue. Sue's going to be offering one complimentary Zoom class to all those who attended tonight. So we will be sharing the promo code for that in our highlights email that's going to go out in the next day or two. So just keep an eye out on your email for that. Our next LeeLa event will be on Wednesday, April 14th with Hilary Van Welter. Hilary will lead a discussion on a revolution in mental health and addiction inspired by the story Alice in Wonderland. This revolution is being brewed through exploring the barriers of the current system, the deep pain being experienced, and the new possibilities hidden in plain sight. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. And until next time, everyone, be well, aloha, and good night. Thank you so much.